There can be no meaningful discussion of constitutionalism without understanding how governments are formed in the first place. To look at this, I would want us to have a conceptualization purely from political theory with respect to how governments are formed. I will do so based on Hobbes's conception of how governments are formed and also try to look at the formation of governments as given by John Locke. Now, in Hobbes's account of the generation of the Leviathan and also in the formation of governments, he described a certain state of nature that was so chaotic. Now, when we talk about the state of nature in political theory, we are talking about the conditions in which governments lived, the conditions in which human beings lived before they formed or governments were formed. The conditions in which human beings lived before governments were formed. Now, in the view of Thomas Hobbes, the state of nature had these features. First of all, it had no government. Two, because it had no government, there were no laws. And because there were no laws, there were no objective basis for determining morality. Again, within the state of nature, human beings were equal to each other and they all had access and right to all freedoms. So, Hobbes described the state of nature as being chaotic, and the life of man he described as nasty, brutish, and short. As a result of the maxim there, that was survival of the fittest, and the feeling of distrust among people within the state of nature, that compelled them to always act proactively to strike first before somebody takes advantage of the other person. Human beings in the state of nature, according to Hobbes, lived in a continual fear of dying dangerously. According to Hobbes, human beings lived in a continual fear of violent death. And those of you who do political science, I believe we have explained and given examples of what living in a continual fear of dying violently could mean. Now, because of this chaotic state of nature narrated by Hobbes, he said, man at one point in time looked at the dangerous nature of the state of nature and thought about how there could be peace. According to Hobbes, man decided that for there to be peace, they had to put down all their rights that they had. Remember, according to Hobbes, in the state of nature, man had the right to all freedoms. And so to bring about peace, it was important for man to put down all the rights that he had. But because of distrust, Hobbes goes on to say that after putting down the rights, let us look for some other person who is not a member of the state of nature. Whether he's a beast or, this political theory, and so trying to conjecture something. But let's look for somebody who is outside the state of nature, and then give him all the rights that we have laid down. Now, once this person receives our rights, then he becomes our sovereign ruler. Now, this sovereign ruler exercises all our rights. And so he is entitled to unquestioned obedience and can never be disobeyed. He is an absolute dictator, and rightly so in the view of Hobbes, just to ensure that we do not relapse into the state of nature. So, he cannot be punished for anything wrongly done. He cannot be disobeyed, and he must ensure that we do not go back to the chaotic state of nature. And so what I'm trying to say is that from the Hobbesian perspective, the government formed was supposed to be an absolutist government, or a government that was controlled by a sovereign dictator. Now, in sharp contrast to the postulations of Hobbes, John Locke also presented a situation of the state of nature. And to a large extent, he agreed with Hobbes as far as some of the features of the state of nature were concerned. First of all, he also believed that in the state of nature, there was no government, there was no law, there was no objective basis for determining morality. Human beings were equal and all that. But the difference is, whereas these features resulted in chaos and lawlessness under Hobbes, Locke believed that these features did not necessarily lead to chaos. But he was quick to say that even though the features had not led to chaos, it was going to happen as a matter of time. So there is no law, there is no government. And despite that, there is also peace. But Locke is saying that the peace that was being enjoyed around the time was going to be short-lived, because the absence of law, the absence of government could one day degenerate into chaotic scenes. And so for Locke, the reason why governments became necessary to be formed was to ensure that we do not one day degenerate into the state of nature. And so Locke also said that for us not to go back to the state of nature, it's important for us not to have the relatively peaceful conditions in the state of nature degenerating into chaotic scenes. It's important to have government. But he said that the person who must wield the power of government must be selected and chosen from amongst the people in the state of nature. So note the difference. Hobbes talks about somebody outside the state of nature. Locke is talking about somebody within the state of nature. Now, the person so selected must be a recipient of some part of the rights of the people in the state of nature. Hobbes says that the person so selected must receive all the rights. But in the view of Locke, the one selected to lead must only receive some part of the rights of the people. Now, the people must reserve their ultimate rights or some part of their rights to be able to remove the leader from office should he fail to uphold the fiduciary trust of the people. So, from the Hobbesian perspective, you could not remove the leader, even if he went wrong. But from the Lockean perspective, we retain some elements or some parts of our powers, some portion of our powers, to be able to overthrow or remove or vote against the leader anytime we felt that he had betrayed the trust we had reposed in him. Now, Locke goes on to say that whilst we wait for the leader to betray the trust before we remove him from office, there should also be some mechanisms to check the exercise of his powers so that he doesn't become an abusive leader. He doesn't become a dictator. Whilst we wait till his tenure expires, there should be some mechanism that will be put in place to ensure that he rules in relation to the interests and in relation to the fiduciary trust of the people. Now, this mechanism is what ushers us into the discussion of constitutionalism. He postulates that governments must be bridled, governments must be shackled, and the exercise of powers must be checked, because, as Lord Acton argues, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, it is because of these things that Locke said that made him earn the name as the father of constitutionalism. Now, when we talk about constitutionalism, we are not necessarily talking about the existence of constitution. The idea of constitutionalism connotes the putting in place of mechanism to check, to bridle, and to shackle the exercise of powers by duly elected leaders. So, a line of demarcation must be drawn between having a constitution and constitutionalism. Because as we will soon find out, there are constitutions that do not check the exercise of powers. There are constitutions that do not bridle the exercise of powers. There are constitutions that rather enhance the frontiers of the exercise of powers. Now, there are several mechanisms for promoting constitutionalism. And every level 400 political science, social and political theory student know that these measures may include: we have a rule of law, we have a respect for due processes, we have an independent media. Also, the fact that we should have in existence a credible and more independent civil society organization that serves as a linkage between the governed and government. There also would require the existence of an independent judiciary. There also would require the existence of independent-minded and well-respected human beings within the body politic whose views are respected and whose views oftentimes also shape or check the exercise of executive powers. But in Lockean perspective, the chief mechanism for promoting constitutionalism is the existence of a constitution that contains credible provisions that serves as countervailing authority to the powers of those who exercise power. The existence of a credible constitution that contains countervailing mechanisms that checks the exercise of powers. So, it underscores the point I made earlier. There are constitutions that do not check the exercise of powers. Example is Ghana's 1992 Constitution. So, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana is a new presidential arrangement that combines some features of both the US presidential and British Westminster system of government. So, in level 100, we were told if you talk about presidential system, we're talking about a system of government where the president exists and the executive is separated from the legislature. And if you talk about the cabinet or bicephalous or the Westminster system of government, you are talking about that system of government akin to what pertains in the UK, where they operate on a notion of fusion of powers, where the executive is part of also the legislature. Now, having modeled three different constitutions along the lines of both systems since 1960, there emerged the preference for constitutional hybridity. What I mean is that we had done parliamentary system of government, we had done presidential system of government since 1960, and in 1992, the framers of the Constitution said, let us have a preference for constitutional hybridity that borrows from the features of the presidential system and then the features of the parliamentary system. Now, this was based on the notion that the best constitution is a mixed system that borrows from the features of the two main systems of government. Nevertheless, after 27 years of operation, I want to argue that Ghana's 1992 constitution upsets the balance of power between the arms of government, particularly between the executive and legislature, and in favor of the former in a manner that pussyfoots constitutionalism. What have my colleagues said about what I'm talking about? As far as the state of current thinking is concerned, I can say the state of current thinking in the area, as far as it's concerned, I can say that distinguished scholars like Professor Gyampo, Mr. Frimpong, Shillington, Mr. Jonah, have all discussed the processes leading to the adoption of the 1992 Constitution, but I'm saying that none of them discussed the difficulties encountered in the implementation of Ghana's hybrid constitution. Again, Professor Kwesi Prempe, once again, Gyampo, Bobe, Pamina Ahoy, Ahaji, Chumesi have also discussed the successes and challenges achieved under Ghana's hybrid constitution and have called for measures to avert the perils of a constitution without constitutionalism. However, in my candid assessment, I think these studies do not coherently discuss the specific ways in which Ghana's constitutional hybridity hinders constitutionalism. And so, with regards to my position, I'm arguing that identifying a problem as neatly done by my previous scholars is halfway the solution to it. The perils of constitutionalism, the perils of having a constitution without constitutionalism cannot be averted without first examining how the constitution itself undermines constitutionalism. So, quickly, how does Ghana's constitution undermine constitutionalism? Now, first of all, I want to talk about the extensive powers of the executive president. We cannot review the idea of constitutionalism under the 1992 Constitution without looking at the extensive powers, the current constitutional arrangement that grants extensive powers to the executive president. Under various provisions and articles of the 1992 Constitution, the president is given overwhelming power of appointments. He appoints practically everybody in Ghana, and he has a say in appointing people he does not directly appoint. Pay attention. He appoints virtually everybody. But when it comes to even people he does not directly appoint, he has a say in influencing the process to be sure that his preferred choice is there. The government of Ghana is his government. And please, let me sound this disclaimer and say that I use the term government generically. I'm talking about governments of Ghana. I'm not referring to any particular regime. Now, so the government of the government of Ghana is his government. Pay attention. The government of Ghana is his government. So, oftentimes you hear them say, my government, my government. So the government of Ghana is his government. And from ministers to deputy ministers to heads of boards, to heads of agencies and members of certain agencies, to heads and members of certain commissions and committees, to the appointment of mayors, district chief executives and municipal chief executives, ambassadors, judges of the Supreme Court, the head of SHRAS, the head of the National Commission for Civic Education, the head of the Electoral Commission, some members, virtually all members of the Council of State. I said virtually all members of the Council of State. The president is appointing everybody. Now, so everybody looks up to the president for some favor. Everybody looks up to the president, one man, as a source of power and a source of authority. So when the president is coming, everybody shivers because he is the source of power and the source of authority. And what bleeds my heart is that whilst these appointment processes are going on, you would have very respected and credible chiefs and opinion leaders, senior citizens within the polity, trundling to his office, begging the president to ensure that their preferred candidates are made ministers or deputy ministers and all that. These tendencies oftentimes make the president look like a political king Kong. But king Kongism and constitutionalism cannot be bedfellows. King Kongism and constitutionalism cannot be bedfellows. In addition to being the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, fountain of honor and mercy, he is also the source of all legislations in Ghana, and every law passed by Ghana's parliament emanated from the executive president. What sort of leader are we talking about? I mean, is it... In addition to he being the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the fountain of honor and mercy, he is also the source of all laws, all legislations. And I'm saying that every law that has been passed by our parliament came from the executive president. Why should that be so? This is because if you look at Article 108 of our Constitution, it says that every legislation, every bill that has financial implication should come from the executive. Every bill. What sort of framing is that? Every bill that has financial implication must come from the executive. Think about it. Is there any bill under the sun that would not have financial implication? If for nothing at all, you procure A4 sheets. So they are saying, if you are going to have a bill and the state would procure the A4 sheets for the bill to be typed on, it means it has financial implication, it must come from the executive. It doesn't make sense as far as the discourse of constitutionalism is concerned. You can't have one man being the executive and one man who is also the source of every law. It violates the dogmas of constitutionalism and the principles of separation of powers. The next thing I want to talk about is the executive-legislative relations, the relationship between the executive and parliament. It also demonstrates how the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, is unable to serve as countervailing authority to the powers of the executive. Here, I'm talking about Article 78 Clause 1 of 1992 Constitution that mandates the President to appoint majority of his ministers from Parliament. Appointment of majority of your ministers from Parliament. Now, this is how it undermines constitutionalism. One, members of parliament who are also ministers will be unable to take an independent view and to critique policies that have been formulated by the executive. If you appoint ministers from parliament, the ministers who sit at the cabinet level to decide cannot go to parliament to critique the decision that they themselves have taken, even if it is wrong. Two, we said the president must appoint majority of his ministers from parliament. It means that there will be some members of the president's party in parliament who may not be appointed as ministers. Now, because ministerial appointment confers more privileges and resources to the minister, those MPs who have not benefited from being, from the appointment powers of the president, they've not had the opportunity to be appointed as ministers, would also do the bidding of the president in a bid to catch the eye of the president. So when a bill is tabled before parliament, the minister who is a member of parliament shouts yea, but the member of parliament who is a party man, who is looking forward to being appointed as a minister, shouts yea, the loudest. Now tomorrow, if the president is sitting in the comfort of his bedroom and is watching TV, he must hear that I shouted yea. So the more you shout yea, the more you improve your chances of benefiting from ministerial appointment. And that also undermines constitutionalism. You are sent there to represent your people and to check the exercise of powers, not to as a way of attracting the attention of an executive president. Three, that same provision that said we should appoint ministers from parliament also, over the years, and I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, we had a cause to complain. You see, once you appoint a member of parliament as a minister, the ministerial job sometimes is more taxing. And oftentimes, these ministers who are also members of parliament will go on travel trips to the president and all that. So, when it is time for members of parliament to meet and to decide on critical issues of national importance, it becomes difficult for parliament to achieve a quorum. So 2 weeks ago, Prof was talking about, we're told less than 15 people got to parliament, they couldn't sit. So you see, by that kind of constitutional arrangement, parliament that is required to exist to control and to check the exercise of powers, by the executive is unable to do so, because sometimes they can't even achieve a quorum, simply because we are appointing majority of ministers from parliament. And to take note of this, I remember this example. During the regime of Professor Akamel's blessed memory, there were some ministers, there were some senior people within the National Democratic Congress who had been former ministers. They had served as ministers in previous administration and all that. But Professor Mills, for whatever reason, didn't give them ministerial appointment. I'm talking about Alban Bagwin, I'm talking about E.T. Mensah, I'm talking about John Akpogbutia and all that. They oftentimes were heard criticizing Professor Mills harshly. One day, Professor Mills decided to silence them simply by appointing them as ministers. And he kept quiet. So I'm saying that one sure way of undermining constitutionalism and to ensure that parliament is weakened in its role as a countervailing authority to the powers of the executive is just to appoint some of them as ministers and then they'll be silenced. Again, take note of this, still about executive legislature relations. Whether you like it or not, what you see during the selection or election of the Speaker of Parliament is just a charade. The president actually appoints the Speaker of Parliament behind the scenes. Parliament will say, well, we are going to elect our Speaker and all that. The man to become the Speaker has been appointed in the bedroom already. So you remember at a point in time, the late Peter Alageti, who was the Speaker of Parliament, a very assertive and independent-minded person. I mean, Gyampo could not control him as he wanted to. So Alageti did one term, and the second term, Kufuor brought in Ebenezer Medina Hughes and said, this is the man I want to be the Speaker. And for the first time, the minority also voted for Alageti. And then they voted, and the majority had their way, and they brought Ebenezer Medina Hughes. But the point I'm trying to make is that it cannot be part of constitutionalism for the executive president, who is supposed to be checked, to have the power to appoint the chief executive officer of Parliament. The president is influential in determining who becomes the clerk. He is influential in determining the selection of certain committee heads, even where people sit, front benches and back benches. He has a say. Then there is this practice, appointment of majority leader of Parliament. The president has a role in that. And also appointment or creation of the office of the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, or creation of a ministry responsible for parliamentary affairs and having a minister in charge of it. It undermines constitutionalism. If you say you have created a whole ministry in charge of parliamentary affairs, it means you are subsuming Parliament under the control of the executive. And rightfully, the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM of NEPA, when they came to review our governance system in 2005, they spoke against it and called for the abolition of the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Gyampo didn't listen. When Atanos came, he abolished it. But MPP came again, they have reintroduced it. A Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs is a disservice to the quest to promote constitutionalism, because it subsumes the role and work of Parliament under the control of the executive arm of government. Let's look at the executive-judiciary relations. Again, here too, our constitution has been crafted such that the president has a way of also keeping the judges in his pocket. Well, somebody would have to appoint somebody anyway. But the point is, look at this. If you look at Article 128 plus 1 of our Constitution, it gives no ceiling on the number of Supreme Court judges that the president can appoint. If you go to America, the Supreme Court justices are 9, and they sit on all cases to ensure a finality is brought on the case. In our case, if a case is going to be heard and the judges are 9, and then they rule 5-4 against the president has the power to appoint 2 more judges again to the Supreme Court and ask for a review. So the 2 more judges who have been appointed and have been asked to do a review, what will they do? So the next time it becomes 6-5 and the president wins. If you do that, it means you are also undermining the role of the judicial arm of government as a countervailing authority to the powers of the executive. But that is what we have. Again, under Article 97 plus 1 of our Constitution, it provides that a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent member. Now, this provision was to deal with the mischievous situation under the First Republic when Kwame Nkrumah lured MPs to cross carpet to his party and gave them appointments, and those who resisted, he detained. You see, what I'm saying is that it should ideally be possible for an MPP MP to say that, well, on this particular issue we are voting about, I think I like the NDC's position, so I'll go and vote with the NDC. But this law forbids that. So if you are an NDC MP, you have to toe the line of the NDC. If you are an MPP MP, you have to toe the line of the MPP as if they can think on their own. So the problem is that this provision expressly forbids MPs to behave independently on the floor of parliament and to vote according to their own conscience. That's the problem. If you try to vote on issues, if you try to take a position against, other than that of your party position, you will be a loner, like PC Apiofori. PC Apiofori was the only MPP MP during the Kufuor administration who took different stance from that of his party. But listen, he openly criticized his party's position, but when it went to voting, he voted for his party's position. So we have party crib system that ensures that everybody is tricked into voting in a particular way. So if you come out openly and say, I don't like it. But when it comes to voting, you vote for the party. And he suffered for it. He never benefited from any ministerial appointment until he exited parliament. So I'm wondering how many members of parliament are willing to go the PC Apia Apiofori way. I had an encounter with some MPs at workshop and I was telling them this. And they said, look, if you do that, you die early. If you like go and find out from PC Apiofori, he was alone and nobody was talking to him. He was not giving any ministerial appointment. And I said, but your mandate as a member of parliament is to go serve your constituents and to go ensure that you check the exercise of executive powers and not to be appointed necessarily as a minister. And so if you don't get that and you're able to carry out your mandate well, I think Ghana will go places. Let me conclude by saying that the 1992 Constitution may have served us well and guided a smooth transfer of power on 3 consecutive occasions. It has given us peace, it has given us cohesion, it has given us stability, and it has made us the beacon of hope in the Africa region. But in my view, it runs contrary to the dogmas of constitutionalism because it was made, listen to me carefully, it runs contrary to the dogmas of constitutionalism because in my view, it was made to pacify someone who was not a fan of multi-party democracy and constitutional rule. Why do I say so? Listen, the committee of experts that gave a report which eventually got translated into 1992 Constitution had a certain recommendation. One, they said that the Council of State should be modeled along the lines of our traditional Council of Elders. If you've been studying traditional religion and you know our traditional political institutions, you know that the office of a Council of Elders was so supreme. No chief dared disobeyed the instructions and advice of the Council of Elders. And you see, no chief also had a hand in appointing members of his Council of Elders. So if you are misbehaving, they will tell you, now the two you came to meet us here. One of the reasons why a chief got stood was failure to heed the advice of the council of elders. And you would have chiefs who are as young as those of you who are Christians. You know, the Bible talks about chiefs being appointed at the age of 8, 15, 11, 12. How did they succeed? They succeeded because they sat on the laps of the council of elders. So no chief had a hand in appointing members of the council of elders. They made this recommendation that our council of state must function almost along the lines of what pertains to a traditional, political institution. But the framers of the Constitution, very soon I'll talk about them, decided not to do it like that. They created a council of state that is toothless. A council of state whose advice the president can just ignore. A council of state whose membership the president virtually appoints. They appoint virtually all of them. So if I have appointed you, you are coming to advise me. Again, the committee of experts also recommended two separate political heads or two separate heads in Ghana. No, for Ghana. They said that there should be a head of state and then also there should be a head of government, so that you don't give all powers to one person. But those who are framing the Constitution said no. Let the head of state, let him also be the head of government, so that he becomes all powerful. Now, the committee of experts submitted their report, and their report was given to another assembly of what they call the Consultative Assembly. It was supposed to be an assembly of 260 Ghanaians. But the caliber of people who were selected to form that consultative assembly to actually draft the 1992 Constitution were essentially people who were sympathizers of J.J. Rollins. Because of that, the Ghana Bar Association, they were supposed to be members of the consultative assembly, but they boycotted. They said they will not be part. Because of that, the National Union of Ghana Students, they were also supposed to be members of the consultative, assembly that drafted the 1992 Constitution. They also boycotted. And Gyampo argues that it is because the consultative assembly was packed or had been packed by PNDC functionaries. And if you have an assembly that is packed by PNDC functionaries, and then there is a chairman of the PNDC who wants to contest as a president, a civilian president, and is looking for a constitution, what will you do? Remember that, you see, all these show that the constitution was made for someone. One thing that pleased my heart was also the smuggling of transitional clauses into the 1992 Constitution in a manner that indemnifies egregious human rights abuses. If the Constitution was not made for one man, why do you say that the atrocities and human rights abuses that took place under his watch should be indemnified? I was telling you of a story during the PNDC revolution times where soldiers went on rampage, entered into a certain church in the Ashanti region and started shooting indiscriminately. In the process, they shot a woman who was pregnant and the baby in the stomach was out. All these acts have been identified. It's in the Constitution. So nobody who committed any atrocity under the PNDC revolutionary times is supposed to be dealt with. And don't forget that when Jerry Rawlings was handing over power to J.J. he said it openly that I am not a fan of multi-party democratic constitutional government. He said it. He said he's not a fan of it. He doesn't like it. If you say you like it, it's up to you. So, Provost Chair, my position is that unless we revisit the abandoned constitutional review process, we cannot develop, as our failed efforts to fight the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment are also directly or indirectly linked to the kind of constitution we have. Any constitution that cannot guarantee constitutionalism, in my view, is a mere toothless political document aimed at ticking the box to fulfill some conditionality. That constitution is completely out of touch with the quest for development. Indeed, that constitution, which contains imponderable and monumental hurdles to the quest to bridle the exercise of power, as well as make the president a political king-kong, can only be kept and maintained by self-seeking, self-aggrandizing, and self-perpetuating cabals. As a student of constitutionalism, Provost Chair, I am calling for a total overhaul of the 1992 Constitution. Thank you very much.